Wednesday the 13th of November. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed, and we hope to see Councillor Kiriopa online shortly. Just a reminder to turn off your mobile phones. Is this microphone working? Maybe we'll just switch out the microphones for a minute.
Is mine going? Check one. Oh, yeah.
Is that better? Is that better? Okay, thank you, everyone. So, welcome, everyone. Could I ask Councillor Lee to open our meeting with a karakia, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As usual, this is an adaptation of the parliamentary opening prayer. Almighty God, we give thanks for the blessings which have been bestowed on us. Laying aside all personal interests, we acknowledge the King and pray for guidance in our deliberations, that we may conduct the affairs of this committee with wisdom, justice, mercy and humility for the welfare and peace of Rotorua. Amen.
Could I just ask the Mayor if you'd like to say a few words just on behalf of the recent passing of Sir Bob Gillies?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you, we just want to acknowledge the passing of our local Sir Robert Bom Gillies, and acknowledging that he was the last Māori Battalion soldier. So I'd invite us all to stand for a moment's silence on behalf of Sir Robert Gillies and all of our soldiers who served in that war. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. A call for apologies. I do have an apology for lateness from Councillor Kiriopa.
I have an apology for Councillor Maxwell too. His niece passed away last night, so he'll be heading to our home marae today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waru. So on that note then, can I have a mover for the apologies? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, thank you, that is carried. Are there any declarations of interest this morning? No, there don't appear to be any. Any minor items that need to be raised later on in the meeting, councillors? I don't have any urgent items that have been notified through the CE. No, thank you very much. So moving then to page 6 of your agenda. It's confirmation of the minutes of the Community and District Development Committee meeting held on the 9th of October. I have a mover and a seconder that they be confirmed as a true and correct record. Thank you to Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Barker. Are there any amendments to those minutes? No, you don't.
Sorry, Madam Chair, can I just ask, I know it's not your usual speaking volume, but it's really hard to hear you.
Okay, is this not working either?
Now, I think you're going to have to really...
Okay, well, I'll use my...
I just thought I'd say it. I'm pretty sure others were going as well.
I'll use a big, loud Deputy Mayor voice.
Use your normal voice, yes.
Oh, gee, thank you. Okay, with that note, can I put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, thank you, that is carried. Don't have any presentations. And then moving on now to the report, Rotorua NZ Quarterly Report, first quarter for year end 25 be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, that is carried. And good morning, Tim and Andrew.
Kia ora koutou. Just to reiterate, passing on respects to Bom Gillies. We'd actually had a couple of really interesting projects we were working on with Bom, and one of them was a tokotoko, or a walking stick that was being carved, that Master Carver Clive Bugle had actually carved for him and was going to be giving it to him this week, but he passed away. And we're also working on quite a significant carving that's going to Monte Cassino, but it's been problematic, and hopefully we can make some progress on it now, because we certainly would like it to be installed in Monte Casino for the celebrations. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to be here, and just to sort of give you a bit of a rundown. Apologies for my voice, I've had a little bit of a flu, so it might be a bit crackly, but I hope you can understand. It really has been a busy start for our team for the financial year. It's been, there's a lot going on, and that has probably been intensified with the addition of the events and venues program and project. So that's, you know, there's a lot of work going on there inside the organisation to adjust and streamline and get everything ready as we go forward. So that's a huge focus for us, and we certainly are really conscious as a board and as an organisation that we have to, you know, de-risk that as much as we can and make sure that we do it effectively and deliver the results that you're wanting and that we want to obtain as an organisation. From a tourism industry point of view, I think, you know, it's the story of a couple of halves at the moment. The winter months were pretty tough for most of us, and certainly at the Tourism Summit in Auckland last week, we heard from a lot of operators from around the country, other than in the really deep south, so Queenstown and Southern Lakes, that trading had been really tough, and the domestic market had proved to be a really tough ask during the winter months, which kind of reflects where I guess the domestic recession's gone and consumer confidence in New Zealand has been down, obviously. So that's really affected the performance of the domestic tourism industry. And certainly the international industry, post the pandemic, we've all noticed that it's, you know, it's quite a sharp drop off in April, May, and then it kicks back in usually around October time, but most would be saying that the start has been a bit slower this year. But there's a general feeling that the season will carry on probably a little bit longer at the tail end of it, so sort of into the April, maybe even into the early May period. So there's confidence there. But the international volumes are really starting to ramp up now. You'll probably see it around town. You know, just giving you an idea, I mean, yesterday we moved about 1,000 people through at Te Puia, and we've got about the same again today. So, and the volumes coming off the cruise ships in the early part of the season are encouraging, given there's a number of issues that part of the industry, you know, is encountering. So yeah, it's been a soft domestic year, and probably most of us and within the industry probably overshot what we thought the demand would be, and it's certainly been a lot flatter than most of us had anticipated. I think it's just a factor of where we are as a country and where our domestic economy is. But the international markets are showing, you know, no sign really of abating, and you know, having just been to the US on a 2-week sales trip, and I can say to you that the confidence is there. The other thing I want to kind of reiterate is, you know, as we came out of the pandemic, we all had concerns about Rotorua's reputation and where we sat within the, you know, regional mix of visitor destinations. And I'd say to some extent that is still playing out domestically. It certainly doesn't play out internationally. It's not something that any of them were mentioning or were concerned about. So I think we've kind of got our reputation kind of within those channels quite strongly rebuilt. And, you know, the work that, you know, a lot of industry operators, Andrew and his team have been doing have been really, really important, giving people confidence. So people like Lou that have been offshore a lot in the last year, 18 months, you know, giving the industry confidence has really provided a backbone to the work we've done as operators to actually see the sort of uplift in confidence, which is really encouraging and really good to see. So, you know, the investment in that side of things actually provides a really strong backbone to the work we do and to actually convert the interest into, you know, into visitation. So it's, the only thing I'd say is we probably as a destination are performing pretty well, and Andrew will give you a bit of an insight into that. But don't forget we were coming from quite a way behind, you know, after the pandemic. So keep it, you know, it's all relative, but it's certainly, we've come a long, long way from where we were, and we should be confident, I think, in the future, given everything stays about the same. It should be quite good going forward. Is that my voice or is that the microphone? Oh, good. Okay. So I'll won't say too much more with my crackly voice, but I'll hand over to Andrew, who will entertain you and give you all the news about what his team and the group have been up to. Andrew.
Cool, thank you. Look, I've got a few slides I'll run through. I'll try and keep them pretty snappy so we're not kind of labouring the point on too much. Obviously we're happy to take any questions at the end. As Tim's kind of alluded to, we have had a fairly busy start to the financial year. Certainly from a non-financial perspective, we're pretty confident in terms of where we're tracking in terms of our kind of KPIs. You can kind of see at the top there in terms of the domestic visitor card spend and international visitor card spend is certainly tracking about where we'd hope to see it, and certainly commercial accommodation occupation levels, given we've come through winter sitting at around about sort of 42%, should be on track to hit that target by the time we get to the end of the financial year. We'll skip over those ones because we don't measure those until later in the year. The eyesight sort of trading, and we'll touch on that a little bit more, pretty close to break even, which again, through that first part of the year is encouraging. So we have had a couple of little, some headwinds there, obviously with construction work going on across the road at the Fenton Street eyesight. So, certainly confident that we'll probably do better than the result that we had last year. BE and our education and group bookings are certainly both on track. I should comment and have a little bit of a shout out to the education guys. They've had a very, very busy start to the year. I know that through November, they were telling me how many school groups we've got through this November is just staggering. So there are tens of thousands of high school students coming through here, mixing some NCEA curriculum around geography, and also getting to explore and enjoy Rotorua while they're at it. In terms of probably more into the kind of the economic development space, again on track here, we've got a couple of projects that we're just navigating through the Regional Infrastructure Fund scheme. So one, which is obviously working with Scion for the Bio-Innovation Park, which is consuming quite a lot of energy, but is certainly something that'll put us in a good space for the future. Financially, little bit kind of off track in terms of where we'd like to be for this time of year. Contribution of a couple of things. One, obviously trading revenue's a little bit down in terms of the eyesights. Again, the construction work and losing our retail space in the Fenton Street building has caused a little bit of a hit. We're confident. It's a sound day. We're confident that we'll claw that back. I think the painting and the building work is close to getting finished this week, so we'll have that retail space reopened, and just as the visitor volumes are really starting to drive up. The other thing that's kind of driven a little bit of a variation to budget has just been we've pushed really hard at the start of this year. You can kind of see it in the program delivery line there. We're ahead of where we probably thought we'd be in terms of delivery. Some of that's kind of deliberate, and we'll touch on some of that in the rest of the presentation. You might recall, this is probably going back around about sort of 12 months, we've done a piece of work that kind of spoke about this kind of Rotorua ripple effect. This is very much around Rotorua's reputation. It continues to be what guides a whole lot of the work that we're doing around, rebuilding Rotorua's reputation. From that perspective, you'll recall we kind of spoke about, it all starts within. So there's very much a focus on the local community, rippling out from there. You sort of get the next kind of, I guess, I always think about it more as the layers of an onion. So the next layer of the onion is very much those industry and the businesses that we transact a lot of interactions with, both from a tourism perspective, but also from from another other economic sectors, so they're people that know us really well. Ripple out again and you're into the kind of domestic space, and obviously you could break that down into what we see in terms of our close neighbours with the Waikato and Bay of Plenty, and then a little bit further afield into Auckland and some of those other markets, before you kind of get out into the big wild world. So pleasingly, I think we're starting to see some shifts across all of those layers. I think there's still a couple of areas where we've got a bit more work to do, but we'll touch on that as we kind of head through some of what we've been up to. This is probably more of a bit of a reminder. You've seen all this stuff before, but obviously we've had My Rotorua running now for the best part of 9 months. We are very close to relaunching the My Card as a digital-only card. Just removes some additional kind of costs on our side and just makes it a little bit more easier to kind of run. Pleasingly, we haven't actually been, because we knew we were going to be transitioning, we haven't actually kind of gone out with a big push to sign more people up, but we're currently sitting at around about 1,000 locals who've got My Cards. As we kind of transition, people will be doing some more work in terms of lifting that number over the next 2 to 3 months. Monopoly, which thank you, obviously the chair has brought in a bit of a prop here. We launched, it's all time blurs. It was probably a couple of weeks back we had the launch for that. A big shout out to all of the businesses that supported and feature on the board. That has certainly been a really great initiative in terms of engaging locals and engaging local businesses. Pleasingly, I think we started with around sort of 3,000 games. To put that in perspective, we had 14 pallets turn up at our office. Our office isn't that big, so you can appreciate it was a little bit chaotic around our place for a couple of days. But we're now out of those sort of 3,000 games. I think we're sitting at around about sort of 2,500 sold. So we're well on track in terms of shifting those units this side of Christmas, which is good. One of the other things you'll start to see a little bit more of on the My Rotorua channels is we're just running a little series around this kind of I Am Rotorua. It'll have someone else did the slides for me, I should say, so thank you to the team. But it'll basically feature a bunch of local personalities who have got, and if it advances for me, I think it might be frozen. But we've got a bunch of local stories that'll be getting featured in some different locals over the coming months in terms of where they are in terms of. So we'll skip those. Well, no, we'll get on track. Apologies. See if it works now. Oh, there we go. So again, lots of local personalities, ranging from teachers through to people that are involved in terms of local businesses. It's going to be great to just again shine a light on some of the local people that are certainly make Rotorua home. Looking beyond that, referencing obviously that we've seen some real shifts, I guess, in terms of what industry thinks of us. I was also up in Auckland last week with the Tourism Summit, and there's a real sense actually when you get talking to people in the sector that actually Rotorua is definitely on a bit of a roll, and certainly the industry have got a strong sense that actually this is a place that's kind of moving forward. I get a lot of people kind of going, what on earth is going on with you guys? You guys seem to be, kicking goals most of the time. So really encouraging, I guess, in terms of, how we ripple on into making sure that we're cementing our place with the rest of the domestic audience. Meetings was obviously a big deal for us that occurred earlier in the year, but again is a really key part of this overall rebuild work that we've got underway. Obviously, we've just some kind of high-level numbers there, but the numbers of people that we had through, were pretty spectacular. We continue to get, lots of positive coverage from this. I think there's a Singaporean publication for business events that we were featured in about a month ago. I think we had 13 pages of Rotorua coverage, and that's a global publication that goes out through, obviously through Southeast Asia. Beyond there, the marketing guys haven't stood still, so we've had some other campaign activity that's kind of running for spring. So spring, obviously, really showcasing obviously some of the beautiful colours up at Centennial Tree Trust, as well as some of the other things that you can kind of get involved in from a spa perspective. Really sort of seeing good pickup on that, and really good engagement in terms of people looking to pick Rotorua as a holiday. In the next, I think it's Friday. So Friday, obviously the new issue of the Rotorua magazine goes out, which is a pretty big job. So we've got sort of 43,000 of those go out in the NZ Herald right across Auckland. There's another 15,000 that head into Wellington, and then we obviously also target the Waikato and Bay of Plenty as well. One of the things we kind of point out around that is it's the last insert, paid insert that goes into the Herald, so we kind of cherish it, and we've really tried to put a focus in terms of making sure that we look after that relationship, and we're producing a pretty high quality guide that sticks. So I know every time that this goes out into the Herald, I get a flurry of texts from all over the country with people kind of going, "Hey, we just got your magazine," which is really encouraging in terms of people do get it, and we pick it up and they get to enjoy it over the next sort of few months. The new visitor guide will also hit the stands in the next month or so, and again, there's around sort of 60,000 of those that head out around the country. One of the other things that we signed up, it's really hard to read, so we won't labour that one, was we signed an MOU at last Trends, which was May, with Auckland Airport and Tataki Auckland Unlimited to target Australian visitors. So if you kind of get out into that outside ring of the people that we're kind of engaging with, New Zealand's got a bit of a problem. So New Zealand, when we look at the visitor arrivals from Australia, isn't performing. It's not just a Rotorua issue. I should be really clear on that. It's a New Zealand Inc issue. And so certainly between us and Auckland, we determined that we're going to do something about it. So we've had a campaign running over the last couple of months into Australia. It's got 3 strands to it, so we certainly haven't kind of put all our eggs in one basket. There's a consumer-facing strand where we're basically targeting across Facebook and YouTube and TripAdvisor a series of ads. So we've, the numbers that are associated with that are pretty impressive. So certainly, we've reached sort of 3 million people through meta ads and another couple of million through TripAdvisor. So and it's targeted into eastern seaboard of Australia. We've had a bunch of stuff happen with Qantas. So this is actually from the Qantas in-flight magazine. And again, one of the strategies we've had is when we're producing content, we try to make sure we can reuse it as much as possible. So you also see a lot of this these images and so forth are reflected also in our own Rotorua magazine. We've also got at the moment another competition that's running in conjunction with Sunshine Coast Airport and Jetstar, which again is just helping to build a little bit more of a profile around Rotorua. Now we'll get to the kind of really interesting stuff, this stuff that I personally quite enjoy. So we kind of get into the numbers. So when we kind of have a look back over the last couple of years, pleasingly we are actually starting to see an increase in terms of domestic and international visitor numbers as measured through cell phone data. So our cell phone data estimates, if you look at year ending September 23, we're at sort of 6.3 million, and that's obviously climbed to 6.5 million for year end 24. It started to show up in the visitor expenditure data and the guest nights as well. What's really pleasing here is, look, domestic visitation overall is down for the whole country, but we're not down as much as the rest of the country. And when we look at our kind of total visitor card spend, actually we're in the positive as opposed to the rest of the country kind of hanging flat. And the same trend is now starting to kind of emerge in terms of bed nights as well. So we are really starting to claw back that market share, which is the piece that we're really interested in overall. But as Tim alluded to, there's a little bit more work to do still. So again, apologies, it's a little bit hard to read, but we've still got a bit more work to do in terms of some of those key source markets. So certainly Waikato, Bay of Plenty, we're really strong. Our close neighbours definitely enjoy coming here, and there's no problems there. We've still got a job to do with Auckland, which is certainly some of the work that we've got coming up. And then obviously looking at some of those kind of key international markets. Look, the US has been incredibly strong over the last 12 months, and we're anticipating that we'll have another strong summer there. But there is still more work to do with Australia, and not up there would be China as well, which is another kind of, obviously it was a really strong source market for us pre-COVID. Again, building back in a different way and building back a little bit slower. Coming up, we do have a new domestic marketing campaign that will be launching in February, and so that's going to be targeting Auckland in particular, and it's very targeted in terms of the types of clientele we're going after, and it is very much about really trying to make sure that we're forcing reappraisal of Rotorua in those domestic mindsets. So we are very excited about that. Trends is obviously coming up. That's a big deal. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes in terms of making sure that as a city we turn up and we turn up well. And then as Tim's alluded to, we've obviously continuing to work pretty quickly in terms of how we integrate the events and venues functions into our business. I'll hand over for questions. There we go.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Tim, did you have any final comments you wanted to make? Or it was a very comprehensive report, Andrew, and you can see that you and the team have been doing a significant amount of work over the last quarter. So thank you for all of that. I think it's pleasing to see the results that are now coming through, and in particular around the reputation rebuild. So maybe we need to stop talking about a rebuild. I think we're just about there. So maybe we can say, Rotorua, we're back, baby. So, Councillors, questions. Councillor Waru, followed by Councillor Patterson.
Tēnā koe te tiamana, tēnā kōrua. Thank you for your report. Nice, got a lot of information in there. Just wanted to, it's a quick question. I think right at the beginning of the report you mentioned the domestic market sort of tapering off a bit. Is that the timing thing? Do you see that coming back in the summer months, you know, making up for what the lull is at the moment?
I think you'll always see Kiwis go to the beach and beach type destinations in summer. I think that's inevitable. So that will happen as it's happened every other year. What you're noticing and what we've really noticed is through the winter months is where it's been under the most stress. And as Andrew's pointed out, we've probably done better than the average, but it's still a tough market and still a tough proposition. And that we're at operator level, that's clearly there. I think, there's that term out there, survive to 25. I still would pick that the 25 winter season is going to be quite a tough one domestically. I haven't seen enough yet to suggest that it won't be, but we'll see. If things open up a bit more, it could be quite positive, but I think it'll still be quite tight.
Okay, thank you. Just my last question was just around the card, the My Rotorua card. You mentioned there's about 1,000 odd people there, which is pretty cool. You mentioned there you're going to get back into that mahi soon. How do you envisage that happening, and what's a target number you're looking at?
So we've been kind of operating under a bit of an assumption we have an internal target of around about 5,000 signed up cardholders. Part of the change we've been making is it actually integrates back into our back end of the website and so forth as well. So it actually makes kind of, how we distribute deals and so forth to those local cardholders a lot easier and more cost effective. What that will look like is probably us actually doing a little bit more of a push in terms of some paid advertising around the types of deals and so forth that are available. I mean, there's some fantastic discounts and there are some fantastic deals from local operators. I think all of us will probably have the experience where, if you turn up as a local to a lot of our businesses and you've got to fish around and try and find a utility bill or something like that to demonstrate that you're kind of from here. You don't have to do that. So, this should certainly make it a little bit easier for locals to be able to kind of enjoy all those kind of, enjoy this place.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, thank you for your report, Tim and Andrew. Positive stuff. Just going back to the agenda, page 17 under Trade International Team, it talks about the Auckland sales trip. And part of that said, we met with representatives from South China Airlines and Air China to provide updates on Rotorua and discuss the roadshow to China in 2025. Can you elaborate a bit on that, please?
Yeah, we can. So Look, we've just got some early planning going on at the moment around taking a group of operators up to China in February. We will be going out for expressions of interest, I think, from operators actually this week. And once we've got those back, we'll firm that up and look to lock that in. Certainly the discussion with Air China, without kind of getting into a lot of detail, is around, we look to try and pull in other partners to support those endeavours. So we're clearly talking to a whole range of different commercial entities about, how they would come on board to support the costs and so forth of doing that. Yeah.
Excellent, exciting.
Can I just add to that? China is probably been the slowest of the big markets to come out of the blocks post the pandemic, and it's starting to move, but it's been quite sluggish. But there's a real need to put a sort of a Rotorua Inc. message across the market, not just a individual operator message out there, because that basically signifies, you're open for business, and, if it can be, supported by the community, then it's got a much stronger chances of getting support in market.
More cut through.
Yep.
So also on that page, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, business under the business growth and investment attraction, projects presented to Kānoa, talks about the Kaingaroa wood processing. What's that?
Yep, so as part of the Regional Infrastructure Fund work we've had, we've tried to take a bit of a fail-fast approach, where we took a big, long laundry list of potential projects to Kānoa to kind of go, well, you've kind of put some criteria up, but instead of us spending a whole lot of time working with businesses to kind of work them up into a detailed kind of proposal and application, let's just give you a sense of what they are, and we can do a bit of I kind of hate the term, but almost a bit of a dragon's den type scenario, so we can kind of whip through them quite quickly. We did have a discussion around, another potential kind of development out at Kaingaroa that would kind of fit alongside the existing development there with Kānoa. I think what was put on the table, there wasn't probably a huge amount of kind of appetite for, but we continue to obviously work with some entities around an alternative throughout there as well.
Certainly be good for their community. A couple more, Madam Chair. So on the same page, it says, you presented Rotorua businesses with the findings from the qualitative Auckland research. Now, we've certainly been having a lot of challenges with domestic visitor card spending in the recent last 2 years. So did this research identify any reasons that may have been driving that other than the cost of living crisis?
Yeah, look, some of it's actually just the way we're perceived by Aucklanders. And so certainly when we've dug into that research, there's some perception stuff, but there's also what Aucklanders are looking for in terms of the getaway. And I think that was where we had some really interesting insights. And certainly that's been feeding into the new domestic marketing campaign that we're currently we're in production for at the moment. To give you a bit of a sense of it, certainly look, we score really strongly in the family market. But what people know Rotorua for is fast-paced, lots of stuff to do, lots of activities. And generally some of the feedback was, oh yeah, we know all that. What we're looking for is, I want to be able to go and relax. I want to be able to kind of head down to I want that kind of almost that nostalgic kind of Kiwi kind of holiday where I can go and throw a rugby ball around on a lawn. Now, we know when those visitors get here, they're going to go and do those activities anyway, and they know about the activities. What we've got to do is make sure that we've broadened our appeal out so we're kind of growing that kind of visitor base overall. Couples was interestingly the other area where, we're definitely we see there's a really strong opportunity, and that will be, a really strong focus for us in terms of, they're quite influential in terms of setting trends, and that's certainly going to be the area that we're focused in on over the next sort of 6 months.
There's a lot of work's gone on in looking at the creative concepts that we put into market for it, and so Andrew and his team have been really direct with the creative agencies that we work with to try and find a message that doesn't just resonate but really cuts through and is really different. And not just trying to be bland and showing the same old. You've really got to cut to a new dimension to give people a sense of what's different here, what's new here, what's fresh here. Even though at the end of the day, a lot of them will do what they do, the stuff we have here, the stuff on offer. But it's really just trying to find new angles and remind them, you know, that we've got some really cool stuff that you can do. And that's where I guess the spa stuff really fits in very nicely with where people are at right now.
Overcoming that, been there, done that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just, there was some great news I spotted. I don't know why we're not shouting this from the rooftops, but the table on page 20, key performance measures, I think you showed that up on the screen before. So the year-end result for the domestic visitor card spend for June 2024 was $323.5 million, and yet in May, in the same corresponding report for the third quarter of 2024, the figure was $244.7 million, with the target being $315 million. So that's a $70.3 million gap. But that gap not only closed, but increased by a further $8.5 million. That's amazing news. How did that come about? I thought we were struggling to get there.
I think you'll recall I was always very confident that we'd hit those targets, and we did.
Pat on the back for that. Awesome.
But that's the, you know, just probably the last 12 to 18 months, we've just seen that real, you know, as much as there's tough market conditions, we've also seen the turnaround and the correction back to getting closer to, you know, what we think our rightful market shares are, even though we know in some parts of the market we're probably still underperforming.
My last one, just you touched on the cruise ship industry. I saw a video the other day of the Celebrity Edge arriving in Tauranga. I'd read a story maybe a month ago that talked about the challenges on a national level, that we're facing a 20% shortfall, or drop, I should say, because of some various issues with costs involved in docking in New Zealand. How is that going to relate to Rotorua? Will we have that 20%, or is it going to be different?
Oh, no, it'll play out. It will play out because Tauranga is one of the big ports. Rotorua is one of the big destinations, so it will definitely play out here. It will. We know we're seeing it already in terms of the confirmed ships coming into following season. So this season, you've probably still got the built-up effect from last year. So the cruise companies have deployed their ships into this part of the world, and that's what they did. Problem was that there were a whole lot of charges and things that were added on afterwards, and that's their issue. And a lot of biosecurity issues as well that are adding to cost. So what in the future a lot of the companies are looking to do is redeploy those ships to other parts of the world where it's not as hard, it's not as challenging for them to, you know, to make their business work. And that's problematic.
Yes, sure is. Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Your Worship, the Mayor.
Thank you very much. First of all, just want to highlight the business events on page 21, and just fantastic that the target was greater than 10 million and the year-end result for June 2024 is currently sitting at 12 million. So again, very successful, and to me that's before meetings happened and before Trends was about to happen. So I think this is a very exciting space for us to be growing in. I did have a question just beneath that, the education and group bookings, again, where we're succeeding significantly, but I wondered how many of those are international, because you've talked about the Asian markets have been quite slow to come back. However, I am aware that in particular China and Japan, there is strong interest for international students, which I know support our schools significantly, because they do pay extra fees, so not only high schools, but also our local tertiary, and also the wider economy. So is there much international representation, and if not, is this an opportunity that we could be using through our council's sister city relationships?
Through the chair, it's a fantastic question. So where to start on this one? There is certainly quite a bit of pent-up demand for that international education space, would be our observation. Some of it's almost, the challenge is not finding, I guess, the business in some ways. It's actually making sure we're kind of ready on our side. So certainly working with the local schools and so forth to ensure that they're actually, you know, that we can provide, you know, spaces in terms of, you know, schools, how we deal with some of the accommodation challenges that work alongside that is actually where some of the you know, the challenges that we kind of see today kind of sitting around that. You know, perhaps unsurprisingly, it hasn't built back to where it was pre-COVID. I think a lot of schools made some decisions, obviously, when the borders closed, that that was activity that kind of dropped, and so there's been some churn in terms of personnel in those areas. So there's quite a bit of work to do. In terms of when we look at that group and school booking space, there's a little bit of international stuff in there. We need to be careful as an organisation. Like we've supported some activity in that space, but we've also got to make sure that we're not seen to be competing with some of these inbound tour operators or inbound operators in terms of them, the work they're doing to bring students in. But we continue to just kind of work our way through how that partnership works in a little bit more of a systematic way. But certainly, if you were looking for an area where you could certainly see some sustained growth over the next sort of 12 months, that would be one. Yeah.
I would add to that the domestic market in that area has, even through winter, despite the conditions, was probably stayed up. You know, it stayed quite strong. We get a lot of international education business through Rotorua, so we get good flows of it. Probably the one we've noticed that's gone off a little bit post-pandemic is Japan, and that's probably just a reflection of where the yen is at relative to the rest of the world. So inbound tourism into Japan's really strong at the moment, and that's just a reflection of the low value of the yen, so it's attractive to go there, which means it's expensive for them to come here in relative terms. So we've noticed that, but out of Southeast Asia, Singapore, and some of those more westernised Asian markets, Hong Kong, that the market's still flowing, and it has been quite, good value. Accommodation is probably the issue we find the wholesalers commenting on, because traditionally they would have gone to more, that backpacker, Kiwi packer type accommodation to keep their cost structures down, and a lot of that accommodation, isn't in the market any longer. So, there's going to need to be to capitalise on it properly, there's going to need to be some innovation in there, going forward.
Thank you, and I'd certainly encourage through the Rotorua Education Network that we look at that, and if there's anything we can do to assist from a council perspective in our sister city relationships, please let us know. My final question is just, again, international focus, but regarding immigration. As we get our tourism back up and booming, of course we need workers, in particular within the hospitality industries. I do have quite significant concern at immigration changes from government perspective, that there is, as an example, salary thresholds or qualification thresholds that actually prevent tourism and hospitality workers coming in because they don't quite meet those skilled staff requirements, etc. It's become quite a barrier that I know many of our local businesses have been quite vocal about and are quite concerned about, that they just simply can't find enough staff to not only remain open but feel confident that going into busy summer seasons they will actually have enough staff. So I just wonder if this is feedback that you've also heard, and if there's anything that Rotorua NZ Council could be doing to advocate for better immigration policies to make sure our local businesses can have the staff to be able to deliver really good services.
A lot of work's been done at the national level. Certainly our national associations are tackling it. It's been a bit of it's been an issue for a number of years. It's not just now, and it ebbs and flows a little bit, but there's two sides to the visa thing. One is the working visa side of it and bringing people in to work in our industry or industries, and the other part of it is the visitors and the complexity around some of the source markets, challenges they have in getting visas in an efficient and effective time frame. And India's been a classic case in point. It's been one. China's another one. There's a number of Asian markets where we don't have, free flow, free trade arrangements with them, so they have to have visas, and that is problematic. And also the cost of those visas has climbed to the point where travel to New Zealand becomes a little bit more prohibitive for those people. And we're talking to get a visitor visa in some markets $500 New Zealand. So it's not an insignificant amount of money for people that are coming. So we're going to have to really watch that, because generally I think we've got a little bit of a reputation as a country at the moment of pushing all our prices up, especially our fees and levies, and that does, in the end, it does play out for you. It does play out as Rotorua's not any worse off than anyone else other than our proportionate size, which means it'll affect us possibly more than most, but it's something we're really going to have to keep an eye on as an industry, because it's certainly getting comment.
Thank you very much, and congratulations once again on a very productive quarter.
Councillor Lee. Do you need to have a big loud voice too?
Possibly a contagious problem with the sound system today. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your report. A comprehensive report and a comprehensive oral presentation, which has answered a whole bunch of my questions already, so thank you for that. As far as I'm concerned, there's a whole lot of great vibes leaping off the page here, and that probably goes a long way to explain why we've given you the events management as well. I think this council has a great deal of confidence in what's going on at Rotorua NZ. So hats off to all of your staff. Please pass that on to us. You're obviously doing a great job.
Will do.
I have just a couple of quick questions, really, or a few quick questions. Do you currently have any vacancies on the board?
We've got vacancies coming towards the end of the year. Not right now. We have got some the board observer program we run is an annual one, so we run up to run them for 12 months, and we're sort of certainly looking at who's going to do some interviews around our next board observers in today and talk to that. But yeah, we've got some vacancies, but we haven't moved to vacancies later in the year than the positions aren't vacant yet.
How would someone go about expressing an interest in that?
It's managed through council.
Councillor Lee, that's a council process, and from our perspective, given that we've just asked Rotorua NZ to take over the delivery of the events and venues portfolio, one of the things that we had discussed at a previous meeting was to leave the vacancy so that when we decided later on what other skills we needed, then we will run an expressions of interest process, which will be run through council, and council will sign off on the skills and the skills metrics of the current board members when we go out to market, and it will be run through council.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Last week there was a 3-day hearing into the emergency housing consents issue. Is that what's happening in that arena? Is that a thorn in our side, in your side, or did you participate in that at all? Or
Councillor Lee, I'm not sure that's appropriate for Rotorua NZ to answer that. We've just heard comprehensively around our reputation rebuild and the positivity about things that are happening in the market, both domestically and with international tourists.
Okay, my question is whether they participated in that, that's all.
No, we didn't.
Okay, thank you. Finally, on page 15, you say we'll look to the Te Aroha 2050 vision to understand and intertwine moemoia and aspirations identified by Te Aroha whānau. Are you also looking to this council's vision?
Absolutely. So certainly your priority statement is what guides all of our work directly. So we should reflect that the first page and a bit of our kind of report just reflects our SOI that was in front of council for your feedback and comment, and we just provide that in there as a standard kind of intro to our report every time. But yeah, certainly your priorities are what guides the work that we do. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through the Chair. Morena, thank you, gentlemen, for your excellent work, and please pass on our regards to your team. Just a few questions here. Having come through a pretty tough winter, as you say, what can we learn from this experience for next winter? Well, what's the challenge for us? Where are the opportunities for us to try and lift that winter for next year?
I'll give you two perspectives. One is, as a region, we can't be idle in the market. We have to be really visible in the market and doing really innovative things there. And that's what we're really planning with our February domestic marketing, domestic campaign launch. Why February? Because that is the start of that is the time that domestic consumers are starting to consider their next breaks, and keeping that moving throughout the year is a really important thing. The other one is from an operator perspective, from a business point of view. A lot of us probably have realised that you just can't sit back and do the same old in the winter months. You have to start to really innovate with what you're doing. And I think a few of us probably learned that possibly the hard way this winter, that we're going to have to do things that stand out a little bit more with our own products and experiences, because if you don't, you're just going to stand still. And it's really critical that we're doing that as operators, because it backs the messages that we're putting out there as a Rotorua NZ, or the community's putting out there as a great place to come. You just can't sit back and expect it to hum along, because it won't. You've really got to feed it.
I just build on what Tim said. So certainly, yeah, the new domestic campaign is orientated to lead into that shoulder period. So it is very much about building the pipeline of visitors through those kind of the shoulder and then into the winter. I think one of the things by getting onto it now is it's enabling us to actually talk to existing operators and businesses a little bit more closely, so we can actually get aligned marketing activity. So it's not just our budget that we're kind of playing with. We're actually kind of getting alignment with much larger kind of sums that private enterprise are actually investing into those key markets. So that's certainly the strategy at the moment. So trying to kind of make sure that we're kind of getting if we're doing some work in that space, we're really making the most of it. I think the other opportunity is thinking about the event portfolio as well, and making sure that actually if we're constructing an event portfolio, that it is actually delivering the goods for us when we need it. So that's going to be the driver as well.
So sorry, could I take from that we would perhaps look at, as the model there was, say, more marathons or more sports events that would bring people down for a weekend or something?
Absolutely. I mean, you've been pretty clear in terms of your event strategy that you've given us to deliver, in terms of what the expectations around that are. So that's what we're going to be focused in terms of delivering. So certainly participation and bed nights is a really key metric out of that, and will certainly be driving us in terms of what we're looking to hunt for.
One of the areas that we believe we compete really well, and we want to do some more work, and is in that sort of age group sporting events and age group kind of whatever those things are throughout arts and culture, sport throughout the country, because we're nicely positioned amongst the biggest population areas to take advantage of it. And that's an area that is a real opportunity for growth, and that's where our sweet spot is within that market. And then most of that happens in the shoulders, and away from peak season, which is hugely advantageous.
Thank you. By chance, a few weeks ago, I found a very old copy of a precursor to this from about the late 90s, and it was interesting that going through it, there was a lot of focus on fishing charters, weekend hunting, etc., like that. And I just wonder, with now, there was something like, I think, 14 odd charter opportunities and various options. I just wonder, given the weakness in domestic, Seeker was over at Mystery Creek about 3 weeks ago, very popular from what I understand. The Hunting and Fishing Expo that was here roughly about 6 weeks ago, very well attended. In fact, they announced it, I think even before it finished, that they were coming back here next year. I just wonder if perhaps there's a hunting and fishing process there, particularly for domestic over winter, that we could be doing a little bit more work or cohesion, or helping the industry sell that story a bit more.
It's the fishing season.
Yeah, you've obviously got to line up the seasons in terms of when those activities happen. But look, certainly it's a conversation we've started with Fish and Game in terms of what are the opportunities that kind of hang around that. Sometimes it's about trying to make sure we've got the right nucleus of operators built around it as well, because we can go out with some fantastic stuff, but if we're not kind of stood up on the other side to be able to kind of to have the capacity to do the right thing for those visitors, then we end up in a little bit of trouble as well. But certainly, we'd be really very happy to continue that conversation up.
Thank you. Last two questions. Could I ask? I hope this isn't, some people take this as bad language, but with Hamilton Airport's trans-Tasman flights, are we doing anything through Hamilton Airport to try and, or would you be able to take us through, if you're not, what you hope to?
Yep, so look, that's a conversation I'm having at the moment. So look, we have had, so there's two strands to that. We are talking to Jetstar at the moment around some other marketing opportunities that they have in flight and pre-departure, which we think open up some interesting opportunities to target those visitors. So we will certainly look to pick that up. We've also been talking to our colleagues in Hamilton, Waikato, Taupo and the Bay of Plenty around what could we do jointly to actually encourage those visitors to land in Hamilton and then to get out and about and actually enjoy what we've got to offer. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, could I just ask, with the changes coming through with your what the task we've assigned to you, could I ask the Rotorua Nui signs, are they under your auspices or do they remain with Council?
They're under us. Yes.
They're under us. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, councillors. I think we've had quite a good discussion this morning. Can I thank you also, Andrew, and your team, and Tim, to the rest of the board. We do have an opportunity later on this afternoon to meet with Andrew and his team and the board at the Rotorua NZ AGM later on today. Finally, too, don't forget, buy your Monopoly sets. It looks like they're going quickly, so there's a good Christmas present for everyone. But thank you very much for the comprehensive report. And morena, Councillor Kiriopa. Councillors, the next item is the CCO report for Rotorua Airport. I do have an apology from the Chair and Nicole Brewer, the CEO. They're attending an airports conference. So I've got the report in the agenda, which will be taken as read. If there are any burning questions, I can either take them as action points and provide the information to you later from Nicole, or alternatively, Nicole is available to come and present at the CDD meeting in December. Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only question from me is regarding the fast-track consenting process for the Tahiki geothermal power plant, and I know that the decision has been made, so that is an update from the report, and I guess it's a response from Rotorua Airport and potentially the CAA on what their view on the decision is and how they'll manage that.
I think I can see a couple of hands look like they're going to come up. So there looks like there are going to be a few questions. So maybe in that situation, if I could get a mover and a seconder to receive the report, and what I'll do is that I'll ask Nicole to come in and present to this report at the December meeting. We also have an opportunity to meet with both the airport team, Nicole, and the airport board at the AGM on Friday. So is that... Thank you. Councillor O'Brien is receiving the report. Councillor Lee seconding the report. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, thank you. That is carried. And we'll note as an action point that Nicole can come to the December meeting to answer any questions.
No, I was just going to suggest that, Madam Chair. That's a better way. Otherwise, we'll just talking to ourselves. Got it.
Thank you. So, councillors, the only matter in the public excluded section is to adopt the confidential minutes if there are no corrections or discussion on those. So if there aren't, we don't need to move into confidential. That's moved by Councillor O'Brien and seconded by Councillor Waru. All those in favour that the confidential minutes of the Community and District Development Committee held on the 9th of October be confirmed as a true record, please say aye. Against, thank you. That is carried. And thank you, councillors. I'm 2 minutes ahead of my self-imposed deadline. So, Councillor Lee, would you like to close the meeting with the karakia, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. So, as is my custom, we'll finish off with the priestly blessing from the Bible, the Book of Numbers. Firstly, in Hebrew, Yevareka, Veyesh Mereka, Veya Yehovah Paniv, Aleka Vechaneka, Visa Yehovah Paniv Aleka, Vayasem Leka Shalom. May Jehovah bless you and keep you. May Jehovah make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May Jehovah turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. I declare the meeting closed at 10:29. Councillors, we do have a housing plan discussion following this, so I suggest we maybe take a 20-minute break for a cup of tea.